and I'm very passionate about. So this is a quote that I lead. So many of the presentations I do, I lead with this quote. Your members will never love your credit union until your employees love it first. And we know that to be true inherently, but we also know that just on a gut level when we're consumers and we ask somebody a question and they'll go, yeah, I don't know. Well, do you know somebody? No, not really. You could go to the website, or you're going to a restaurant and the server seems completely disinterested in what it would take to earn a nice tip from you by giving you better service. And so you can have the best strategy and you can have the best systems, but if you don't have people that are passionately connected to your mission and that's shown by their behaviors, then you just simply won't be successful. Your members will not trust and love being a part of your credit union unless they can see that your employees want to be a part of it as well. And so I want to begin with the business case for culture because, I could come on here and say building culture is the right thing to do. And you just need to do it because we need to do the right things. And I think I probably have a group of people that would probably do the right things for the right reasons. But let's be honest, we've got to produce business results. The NCUA expects it, your board expects it, and you have to stay in business. So what's the business case for culture? Well, I'm going to share a few slides with you that will show you just that. 84% of leaders say culture is critical. Now, I'm not a math whiz, but I think there's only 16% that don't think leading culture is important. No, critical. 60% say that it's more important than strategy. Now, by the way, we have a strategic planning meeting every year, and sometimes we have multiple strategic updates and planning sessions along during the year. But 60% say it's more important than having the right strategy is having a great organizational culture. But wait, what? Only 50% admit it's not on their C-suite agenda. Now, why is that? Because everybody in the C-suite is stupid. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. It's not the way our brains have been trained to work. The way our brains have been trained to work as credit union leaders is producing more loans, reducing expenses, completing projects. It's around the idea of developing a strategy and executing on that strategy with systems and structures. If you go read Credit Union Magazine, whichever one you want to read, everything's about technology. Everything's about mergers. Everything's about some new technology that you could bring in that will fix this or help you do this faster. And so the way the typical business mind works is increase income, reduce expenses, systems and structures, and creating awesome strategy. So I understand why seems this tremendous dichotomy between how important it is and how much time we admit we spend on it. But if we don't, it's going to become problematic. And I think for some of you, you're already seeing some of that problematic results of that. So culture is recognized, but it's just under prioritized. Now, if you said that about any other aspect of your business, you'd say, we need to fix that. So if you want more proof, great culture attracts top talent. More than 75% of job seekers consider a company's culture before applying for a job with them. And 56% of respondents said culture is even more important to them than salary. And the younger the prospective employee is, the more important culture is. My generation was, how much money do I make? And where's my advancement? other generations have come along and said, hey, you know what? My well-being at work is important to me. And my ability to be able to be inspired by my work is important to me. But overall, 56% of respondents said culture is even more important to them than salary. Let's keep going. Wait, there's more. It boosts productivity. 76% of US workers believe a positive work environment. Now, what? 76% of US workers believe a positive work environment helps them to be more productive and efficient, and 74% thinks it improves their ability to be able to serve their customers. So, what does culture do? It creates employee engagement, and it produces then the increased ability, by whose opinion? The opinion of the employees themselves believe that helps me to be more effective in working with my customers. Peter Drucker, the great, probably, I think, maybe the very first management guru, said this many years ago: culture eats strategy for breakfast. By the way, he wrote that in the 50s. And we're still not really talking about culture much. We're talking about it more. But in the 50s, the great management theorist Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now, some of you don't even know who Peter Drucker is because he's old school. I mean, well, let's face it, he's so old school, he's dead. I mean, you can't get much more old school than that. But I guess that makes me, Dylan, pre-old school. I'm on the cusp of old school if I don't watch it and eat better. But the idea, guys, is this idea of culture has been around a long time, but we continue to be distracted by other things that seem to be more urgent while the important gets left behind. So now I kind of misnamed this presentation to get you to show up. If I had said culture and strategy are both important, you wouldn't have signed up. But when I say culture is greater than strategy, you're like, okay, wait a minute, got to hear about that. Culture and strategy are both important, but it's the lack of attention paid to culture that creates the problem. In fact, I want to show you the ecosystem here. And our client success manager, Whitney Pickett, says, everybody loves a Venn diagram. So here you go. I love her quote there. Everybody loves a Venn diagram. So systems, mission, and culture, when they intersect, create people and performance. How does that work? Well, you've got to have a purpose. This is the vision and strategy. Why do we do what we're going to do? And what is the idea to get there? So let's say our vision is to improve the financial well-being of our members and the communities we serve. Just a very basic one. To improve the financial well-being of our members and the communities we serve. So part of our strategy would be what? Community service. Part of our strategy would be defining and understanding what member experience looks like. We would say, hey, we need to do sales training. We need to be able to track sales. And what is that? That is the systems and processes. So if you have a vision without systems and processes, you can't deliver on it. But here's the problem. I've seen many organizations that have a great strategy and have wonderful systems, but they have a disengaged staff, not using those systems and structures and processes. In fact, I'll give you an example. I was asked to come to Florida to work with a credit union, and they asked me to do a member experience audit. So I went to all of the branches, and these branches were amazing. They all were branded with the same exterior and interior architecture, different sizes to fit the footprint of the size of the community or maybe even the property. And when you walked in, it was a technological dream. You didn't have a lobby coordinator. You had an iPad and you'd go over there and you'd log in your name and you'd click what you wanted to do. And it would start like you're in a contact center environment. Someone would be with you in no more than 4:59, 4:58. And so I'm sitting there and I'm the only person in the entire branch that's not working until two people walk in. Husband, wife, they walk in, they log in, and they sit down. And so I think like everybody in the building is going to collapse on them. It's going to look like they're being brought down by a SWAT team. Is crickets. So I look over and there's a member service rep in their office. Now it's got completely glass walls there so they can see out in the lobby because you want to be able to react great and quickly to service. But they weren't moving. So I kind of peeked over there and I could see that she was playing blackjack on her computer. 12, 7, dang it, dealer one. And she just kept continuing to play it. Now I'm losing my mind. I'm like starting to bite my fingernails. I'm like, for the love of God, somebody do something. Why did she continue to play? Because the system told her she had more time. Here's a principle I want to share with you who believe your technology is going to save you and your strategy is going to save you. Never overestimate the ability of a disengaged employee to undermine every single plan you ever make. And that's what you had. Beautiful building, beautiful technology, beautiful game plan, strategy, brand, and the employee going 3, 7. All right, I'm going to hit. So I'm losing my mind. They're sitting there. They're very patient, nice people, like most of our members are. And so when it gets down to 25 seconds, 24 seconds, 23, now it turns to red and it's flashing red on the employee's computer. And right before it hits 1, she clicks it and goes, she doesn't get up. She leans over, so her mouth is pointed outside the opening, and says, Smith. And they look up like, is that you, God? I didn't know I'd meet you in the credit union lobby somewhere. This is interesting. And so they get up. So they look and they make eye contact and she motions them. And they walk toward her like they, like mind controlled zombies. They sit down. She never gets up. And she's sitting back. What can I do for you? Now, the person who was taking me on the tour, is looking at me like, oh, this is not good. And I just looked at her and I said, that's probably not how this was designed, is it? She goes, nope. So I say something then that I say about 18 times a day. I'm hungry. So we walk across the street to the Chick-fil-A. It's time for, lunch or pre-lunch snack or whatever I consume. And we walk in, welcome to Chick-fil-A. How may I help you? What can I do for you? May I have your name? Thank you, Mike. What else can I do for you, Mike? Mike, thank you for coming in. Mike, please let me get you something else to drink. And after walking out the door, I just said to my ride, I think you guys just got out-served by a fast food restaurant. And nobody would ever think we could get out-served by a fast food restaurant, but here we are. And so the idea, everybody, is that you need strategy, you need systems, but the catalyst, the fuel is your culture. And what you have is when you intersect engaged employees and the understanding we must hold people accountable for their behaviors with good systems and processes and a compelling vision, we will create people who perform. And all that will bring it together. So why am I not talking anymore about, well, I'll talk a little bit about vision, strategy, and systems, because we've all got those. That's not the deficit. So, gang, culture is happening with or without you. Karen, you've got a culture at your credit union right now. And it's either one that has been mindfully and intentionally cultivated, or it's organic. Has anybody bought a house where the yard has not really been taken care of? Think about your starter home, or maybe your home you live in now, but because you don't have time to mow it and cultivate it. But what happens? In its natural state, it is not beautiful. It is not cultivated. Weeds, patches of dirt, there's insects, there's all kinds of things going on there that, your HOA is going to say, hey, can you either fix that or move? So what do? You begin to pull the weeds, fertilize it, mow it, water it, mindfully, intentionally make it better. And then it's beautiful. I want to make sure we understand something. You have a culture right now. You may not like it, or you may not even think about it much, or you may think it's lovely. If it's lovely, you either inherited it, you got lucky enough to step into it, or somebody had a mission and a vision and created a strategy to deliver on it, and implemented systems to make it work. And they made sure that they got rid of people who weren't in alignment with the vision, hired people, and promoted and encouraged and trained people that were. And now it's beautiful. I want to make sure we understand this. Every organization, every team has a culture. The question is, did you create it, or did it create itself? And it created itself, it's almost always broken because it's not cultivated. Or you just got lucky enough to inherit it. So you really have two options, everybody. You either get natural cultural drift or intentional culture shift. And what I'm going to be sharing with you here over this time together is some key principles to create intentional culture shift. Now, once the hour is done, please don't say, well, I think he could have talked about more. Right, because I've got an hour to talk to you about something very, very critical. So I'm going to hit the highlights, and I'm happy to meet with any of you. In fact, you can go right on our website, schedule time with Mike Neill. I love talking about this stuff, and I'll talk to you about you and your credit union and give you some insights. If you'd like to meet with me and discuss that, I'd be happy to do that. But obviously, with relatively an hour to do this, we're going to have to hit some high points, okay? So the first one is, it starts with leadership. What is leadership's role in developing and communicating this culture? The first thing we've got to do is we've got to create and communicate vision and values. Oh, we've got a mission statement. What is it? It's I think it's we members and the community and other, something about maybe the employees. Guys, I did a big presentation for Q's several years ago. It was top credit unions by asset size, and their board chairs. So it was a very kind of about 100 people, and they asked me to speak on culture. And so I thought, man, I've got, the big dogs in there. This is going to be great. And I asked a question. I'd like for you to share your mission statement with your fellow cohorts at the table. Out of 100 credit unions, only one credit union, now this is the CEO and board chair, could quote their mission statement. I was shocked. I was shocked. Now, I had planned on everybody being able to share with me their wonderful mission. So, when do things go wrong as a presenter? You better make a shift. So, when this one person said, who else? I'm getting crickets. After about 2 minutes, I said, and that's my point. And I shifted quickly to, this is what's wrong with America. But the idea is, if you can't quote your mission, you don't have a mission. Because if you don't know what it is and you're leading the credit union, then you can't lead others to something you don't even know how to word it. And so what are you leading to? You're leading to your strategy, and you're leading to your key performance indicators, all of which will make you look great to the NCUA, great to your board, but it is not sustainable. How do I know that? Because I'm super old. Not a lot of benefit to being really old, but I can tell you, when I started in this business, there were about 23,000 credit unions, and now there's about 4,500 of them. Not because they didn't have a strategy, and not because they didn't have systems and processes. It's because they could not create a culture that caused their members to want to continue to use them as their financial institution when somebody else bigger with more technology or lower prices came into town. And so we've got to have a mission and vision that will travel. I'm going to talk to you more about that later. We've got to model the behaviors. And this is the real challenge. I see some of the worst behaviors in the credit union among people in the most significant positions. The core values of the credit union undermined by the people who wrote them. Now, I'm not saying this about every credit union. Some of you are probably mad at me right now. I can't believe he's saying this. He's never been to our credit union. You're right. Remember that. I haven't. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about everybody else other than you. But I'm not talking about you, so don't get mad at me, or don't get mad at me yet. I'll give you an example. At one of my clients, the CIO had a violent outburst at a employee. What do you mean by violent outburst? That they threw a stapler at the employee. They threw it so hard that it knocked a hole in the drywall. Now, why did they have me there? To do service training and team building. So this is a very large place, 1,000 employees. So I'm doing a lot of sessions. And after every session, somebody would walk up to me and go, Mike, is everybody coming to this training? Uh-huh. Okay. Kind of like they were abused kids crying out for help. And so after about 3 of those, I said to the training director, why does everybody keep asking me that? Oh, they just want to know if IT's coming. Really? Oh, they're terrible. What do you mean? And she described it. And I said, how did they get like that? Oh, their leader's the worst one. I said, worse than that? Oh, yeah. And then she said he threw a stapler. So, okay, this got to be exaggerated. It wasn't. How did I find out? I'm doing the outbriefing meeting with the C team, all of whom have master's degrees, 2 of them in organizational development, by the way. And of course, I get asked the question I never want to get asked in a situation like that. What have you uncovered or learned that would inhibit us from being successful with our strategy? Like, can I just get on a plane and go home? No, I'm more honest and have more integrity, maybe than is wise. And I shared that story. And I thought they would go, oh my gosh, that's a lie. It's made up. It's exaggerated, or you're out of your mind. Nope. Everybody just put their head down because they were ashamed I found out about it. Now, what is it? It's shock, anger, denial. So they went to anger after shock. And the C-level person over this person in IT who had thrown the stapler said, yeah, he did it, but are we going to do anything about it? No, because the guy's a genius. And if he walked, we couldn't run the shop the next day. He doesn't need us. We need him. So I appreciate what you're saying. And I would tell you guys, sometimes fortune just smiles on you. The values of the credit union were painted directly behind him. And the one right above his head was respect for all persons. And I'd say, would you read what's behind you? And he's a smart guy. He goes, respect for all persons. What about it? And I said, what you're willing to accept becomes your reality. What you allow becomes your experience. And so if we have leaders that live less than our values, don't expect our employees to live out our values. We've got to recognize people that live out our vision and values, not just people who make the most sales, not just the people who sell the most ancillary products, not just the people who are the most accurate, not just the people who are the most tenured. Mike Neill's saying don't recognize tenure and don't recognize sales. I did not say that. But if the only things we're recognizing are outcomes and not behaviors, then you will get great outcomes and crappy behaviors. And some of your most talented people will be the people who are least interested in helping their teammates, helping people in other departments, sharing information, and doing things outside of their designated box. So we've got to, once we have a mission and have values, we've got to figure out a way that we're going to organizationally catch people doing things correctly that are in alignment. And then strategic decision making in alignment with our vision and our strategies. How might this look? One of my clients in Minnesota did a great job with this. I basically stepped in and did a member experience audit with them too. And what I suggested to them was that when they have a budget presentation, so the managers would have to present to the executive team their proposed budget. And I proposed that they create a scorecard where each person who is in a budget approval position would score the budget proposed based on its impact on mission. And then I proposed that every presentation from a manager must include a summary of how and to what degree this budget request will promote and support the mission and the strategy. And it changed everything for them. They went from fighting over the things you typically fight over and for in a budget meeting to, if there's an argument, it's going to be around what is going to be the impact on this new technology to facilitating our strategy and our mission. And it changed everything for them and made a significant impact. That's what happens when culture is driving and creating the execution of your strategy and aligning your tactics. All right. So what are some warning signs of a misaligned culture? Well, here they are. All right. I see some of you starting to get, you look like you're going through detox. You look like you're about to go to rehab. Some of these are setting you off here. Lack of accountability for behaviors. Hey, if you don't show up to work on time, they will fire you. You're out of balance every day, you're going to get fired. But Jack, crazier than rat terrier on crack. Oh, we're going to transfer you to the contact center. Well, at least that's what we did at my credit union back in the day. We really did. Back in the day when I first started, I don't care what you did, you would just go to the contact center. That was your final resting place. So when you complain about stuff like that, guess who gets to manage the contact center? Mike Neill. Okay, so if you complain about things, you're going to get it. So I'll tell you guys, so every dysfunctional human had been put in the contact center. And when I showed up to manage it, I would tell Our drug policy should have been, we'll give you drugs to run it. We're not going to test you to see if you're on drugs. We suggest them because you're probably not going to make it. The previous manager is in rehab now, if in case you wonder where the last manager went. I didn't need management skills. I needed a garlic clove and a cross. I needed exorcism training. Why? Because as long as you showed up to work, you were in balance, you were good. But if you acted in ways that were totally out of alignment with what is appropriate teamwork orientation, nope, contact center. Just because it was kind of over the drive-through area. Actually, we put them in the closet, so to speak. So the other thing that happens with a lack of accountability, highly engaged employees become disillusioned. Let me ask you this. Dylan, I'm gonna call on you to help me here. Gang, I want you to just simply chat in the word yes if this applies to you. I have left a job, I have left a manager, I have left a company because I realized my commitment to integrity, to mission, to quality exceeded that of the organization. And I just could not bring myself to work there anymore. That's not the way I work. If you can relate to that, if that has been you, I want you to chat in. Yes. And while that's happening, Dylan, I just want you to take the total people here as participants as a denominator and count up the yeses as the numerator and check back in with me sometime and give me a percentage. I'd like to know what's the percentage of people. And I bet it's pretty high, Dylan, because these are people who are so committed to work, they're coming to hear about work and it's prevented them from working. Right? They're so committed to work, their work is piling up that nobody else is doing for them, so they can hear about how to do more work. So this is the kind of people we've got here today. I imagine it's going to be pretty high. But what happens, guys, is this: when you're committed to mission, to excellence, it makes you insane when you see what is allowed, and you begin to lose faith in your leaders, that what they say is what they actually believe. Committed people become disillusioned. Disengaged people don't get disillusioned. You know what they say? Can you believe they promoted Sharon? Whatever. Don't worry about it. Can you believe they're doing that? Stop. Look, calm down. Look, you and I don't make enough money to worry about this. Beep. Just do your job. Right? People don't become disillusioned who are not illusioned. But the people who are engaged, they become disillusioned and leave. Dylan, getting close on a number?
We have well over 50%.
By the way, you know what the national average is? 50%. 50% of people in the United States say, I've left a job, a manager, or a company because my belief system did not align with the belief system in this organization as stated. And so that's a pretty reflective group we've got here. Here's another warning sign. Departments devolve into what I call departmentalism. Departmentalism is a deeper level of problem other than silos. A silo is when you say, why are you calling here? Where's your manager? Why are you emailing me? You should email, this isn't our department. We don't have time to help you. Departmentalism is the branches are full of idiots. Who hires these people? Accounting, they're the meanest, nastiest people I've ever seen. Nobody does anything in collections. If they had to do our job, they'd be balled up in a fetal position crying for their mama. We're the only one that really works. Any ism revolves around the idea that I'm better than you. Why? I don't need to explain it. I just am. And the fact you don't know it is problematic. But departmentalism is so much worse than silos. Silos, it's hard to get between the areas and communicate. The other one is you don't have the right to communicate with us. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not as smart as us. You're not as detailed as us. You're not as good as we are. And I see this happening so much more in credit unions now. And the last warning sign is service behaviors do not reflect vision, values, and strategy. Now, I just want you to think about your own credit union. What's the mission statement or the vision statement? I use those terms interchangeably. And now, what are the behaviors of people in your branches? What are the behaviors of the people at your branch? What are the behaviors of the people in the departments that you're thinking of right now? Do they reflect that or do they not? Well, that's a warning sign. And then lastly, middle management identifies with employees more than leadership. Hey, just want to let you guys know about a decision the leadership team made, and it's going to impact us, but they made the decision to, in other words, it's not me, I'm just the messenger. You know those people, they don't listen to anybody, and they don't make decisions. They don't even think about us in the equation. I'm not going to say it overtly, but I'm going to allude to it very, very directly. All right. So if we're going to align culture with strategy, we're going to have to do this. Culture supports strategy. Why? It creates the why. Why are we doing this? Why is this important? And that creates engagement. The strategy defines the what. What do we do? Who do we serve? And then the culture creates this engagement. We've got to have both of those clicking. So what do you mean by that, Mike? I don't quite catch it. Well, let me give you a very basic example. What if our strategy is member growth? What if the strategy is member growth? Then it would make sense that I would be developing a culture where engaged employees deliver exceptional service to members and team members who seek to offer products and services to every member at every opportunity. Now, that's not a written statement. I don't want you to think, okay, well, Mike Neill's, expecting a statement to be written and we've got to have this. I think I lost my PowerPoint deck, didn't I?
We can still see it.
Oh, you can? Okay, I can. So I'm gonna have to quickly bring that back up. It completely disappeared from my screen. All right. Am I good now, Dylan?
Yes, you're good.
Awesome. So I'm not saying this then statement needs to be documented, but if your strategy is member growth, the culture would be supporting we would care about having engaged employees who know how to deliver exceptional service. We've probably documented that service. By the way, what is that? That's the strategy. That's the how we're going to do it. And we're going to have members who every touch point, I'm finding ways to save you money and make you money. If I don't have that culture, then what have I got? I've got a strategy without the ability to execute on it through people. So what do we want to do? I'm going to give you some practical steps to build culture right here. Okay. We're going to spend the rest of our time what to do. So number one, ensure your current mission is relevant and becomes widely known by your employees. What does that mean? It should be one sentence and it should describe what you do. If it's more than one sentence, no one's going to remember it, including your leadership team. I want to give you my favorite example. This is my favorite one in all of the credit union world. My good friend Tansley Stearns and her team developed this at Community Financial. It gets me all with the spilkus and the knockus, all the feelings here every time I read it. To create joy and ignite Michiganders' dreams. well, Mike, I don't know how I feel about that. Doesn't matter how you feel about it. It fits them. It does, yours will fit you. But I love this because why do I like it so much? I know some of these people and I know what they aspire to be. So it resonates to create joy and ignite Michiganders' dreams. One sentence, short enough to be on a bumper sticker, but it does not sound like a slogan. It sounds like an inspiration. And so that's the first thing you need. Next, you need to hire and promote with culture in mind. Only promote people who are living out the organization's values. Give me an example of that, Mike. Well, if you're going to inspire Michiganders' dreams, then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to promote you if you're sharing with members how we could save them money and how we can make them money. If you're a teller or an MSR and you're sharing how you could save money for people, make money for people, make their life more convenient, then I'm going to promote you. If you're not, I don't care how many days a week you come into work on time. I don't care if you're the most accurate uh, teller of all time, or you never make mistakes and you have more product knowledge than anybody's at MSR. I'm not promoting you because you are not living out one of our core behaviors to the degree that it needs to be lived out as we defined by our mission. Boy, what, can I tell you something? You'll never have to hold people accountable once you start promoting people. Let me say it different. You'll never have to hold people accountable. When I say that, fire them, write them up. They'll self-select out when they realize unless I do things in alignment with our culture, I don't get promoted. I can be in balance every day. I can know about more about our products and services than anybody. But if I'm not doing a core behavior that's aligned with our mission statement, you don't get promoted around here. People will go, well, I don't want to do that crap. And they will leave. They will self-select out. The other people will stay, change their behavior, and the other people who've already in alignment with that will thrive. Next, use behavioral interviewing and skill testing when hiring. When you have a mission and you got values that you want to hire toward, are you a people person? Oh, yes. Everybody says I'm a people person. A resume won't do it. So let me give you an example. One of Community Financial's core values is igniting dreams. So here is I think, a good behavioral interviewing question to ask. Tell me about a time when you helped someone believe in themselves or see how they could achieve a goal. Because I'm looking for someone who is a dream igniter. If you say, one of our values here is to ignite dreams. Do you feel like you do that? Oh, yes. Everybody, in fact, that's my nickname, Dream Igniter. Now, you ask their friends, they go, no, that person's nickname is Dream Killer. I'll tell you. The only thing in common is the first word, dream, but it's Dream Killer, not a Dream Igniter. So how would I do that? How about this? How about for skill testing in your interview? How about a situation like this? An employee comes to you and is complaining about another employee who they feel like has wronged them. How might you respond to this? If one of your values is we hold each other up, the person would respond in the interview, I would probably tell them then they should go talk to them about it. Bingo. Right? So you begin to develop interviewing that aligns back with your mission, both skill testing and interviewing. Number 3, you've got to embed culture into your systems. So what do we recognize? Do we recognize sales performance? Do we recognize longevity? Do we recognize they saved us a lot of money? a team that expertly navigates the implementation of a new technology. All those things are great. But do we recognize people who are living out our culture in a way that exemplifies it for the others in the organization and to our members? What are our performance goals? Do we have goals that really measure what our mission is? If not, then you're not aligning your strategy with your mission. And then you're not creating what? Culture. What do we hold accountable? You're out of balance, you're going. You don't do the one behavior that's most closely aligned with our mission statement. Well, we're super sad and you won't get your incentives. Just know we're terribly disappointed. Everything that we do, we have to think of it in terms of what is our strategy, what are systems we're building to align with our strategy, and what is are we doing that in alignment with what our mission is? So here's a real world case study. We draw to a close. A credit union leader said to me when I had the opportunity to work with a pretty notable credit union client within that region by size, you're going to work with who? Good luck. They will never follow through on what you're going to teach them. I would pull out of that if I could, because they're going to make you look bad. Those people will never pull this off. And I want to tell you, it's one of our greatest success stories. Why? Because we had a CEO who said, I've got 3 years left and I'm going to leave a legacy here. There were leaders who left because they said, this place has lost its mind. There were managers who said, I don't make enough money for this stuff. I'm not going to coach the behaviors of my team. As long as they do their job, I'm good. And they got uncomfortable. Some left. And then the other employees, almost nobody left because they realized, dude, they're really going to do this. And you know what? This is a better place to work. This is a nicer place to work. This is a more positive place to work. We've got momentum. And I'm going to tell you guys, a real world case study is this. You've got to have leaders and who are committed to building culture, who create managers who follow the culture imperative. And when you do that, you'll get there. Well, what's some big takeaways? And I'll have time for a couple of questions here before we wrap up, if you have any. In fact, why don't you do this? Why don't you just chat in any questions you might have? And then Dylan, I'm assuming we don't have any yet. You can field those and let me know if there is any. If not, then I'll self-congratulate Dylan. You know me, and I'll just say, I must have been amazing because no one had questions. So I'll play this to my advantage either way. So big key takeaway. Culture's not soft, it's strategic. I hate it when we say, oh, you're training them on soft skills. You mean like serving your members? And what's your mission statement again? To improve the financial well-being of our members. What the what? What is a soft skill? I don't understand what a soft skill is. Okay, if you want to use that terminology, okay. But it's not soft skills. It's skills, tactical skills to help us deliver on our strategy, which is aligned with our mission associated with our culture. Make no mistake, leadership creates culture intentionally or passively allows it. And if it's passively being allowed, it's probably not the one you want. I can help you with that. Aligning culture with strategy unlocks long-term success. Why? Because when you have When you have a unique place, you don't have a Met credit union. You don't have a credit union franchise. You got a place that feels different, is different because it thinks different, because it thinks uniquely about the people we're serving, the communities we serve, and what we're here to do. You will always be able to determine your own future. You won't have to be looking over your shoulder because you're unique. And you have the power to shape the culture you want. You absolutely have the power to do it because you've got a brain in your head and you've got breath in your lungs and a heart that beats. And guys, guess what it is? It is planning and executing on the plan, and we know how to do that. We just have to apply our talents in an area that it's not the emergency. We need more loans as the emergency. We need to get this merger done as the emergency. There's a great book that was written many years ago, and it's just been so important to me, called The Tyranny of the Urgent. The Tyranny of the Urgent. And the premise is this: the urgent will always consume the important. The urgent will always consume the important. And I don't know how many times I talk with clients that'll say, we just got so much going on now, right, Mike, Neill? I think we'll probably look at doing this the next year. And then they say that again, and they say that again, and they say that again. And eventually I read Credit Union Times about a merger and a name change. I don't want that for you. I want you to be doing what you want to do as long as you can do it. All right, Dylan, do you have any questions?
We do have a few questions in chat. I'm going to read them out now. The first question is, Mike, what is your advice for middle managers who can't directly influence the whole organization? How did they learn how to create culture now so that they can use their experience as they grow in their careers?
You can build a culture within your department. I actually did that at my credit union. For a long period of time, I was only over the retail area, contact center. I had training and branches. We built a culture that won a lot of awards. And initially, another part of the house said, those people get on my nerves. They're receiving all the compliments. But eventually, somebody said, well, why don't you guys win the awards? Why don't you guys do what they're doing? They worked hard, they earned it. So you can build a culture on your team. I'll give you an example, my friend. I had an employee that came to me and said, Mike, why are your expectations of us so much higher than the rest of the credit union? Because I told them, I'm not afraid for us to be great. Let me encourage you this. Don't be afraid to be great. Don't wait on anybody to be great. You be great. You have your team be great, and people will follow behind you. And I like the way you're thinking. You will get in that C-level position one day. And when you do, you're going to know how to create it because you've already created the system. Great question.
The next question is, do you have any tips on if the board is not following the credit union culture and the strategies not aligning with policies or previous values?
Yeah, that's really the job of your CEO, and to kind of make that linkage there. But again, as a CEO, I know, again, you have limitations on what you can do. But what I would do is I would start putting our KPIs in our board report, and I would show what core value they support and how they support our mission. And I would start creating a board package where I'm reporting our, our implementations and how it's going to impact our mission. You have to bring people along whose part-time volunteer job is outside of their industry. And so we've got to do a better job as CEOs, I believe, of bringing them into it. And so redesigning my board package so that my KPIs are in alignment. Got time for one more before I have to say goodbye.
We do have one more question. What are some fun things that you have seen recently that elevates the culture and or member engagement?
I would say this. I would take one of your core values. I would ask people to share examples of behaviors that would be reflective of that core value. So, inspiring dreams. What's an example of that? Catching your coworker doing something right. Sharing knowledge with your coworker. Talking to members about how we could save them money. And then create a month where for that value, you're going to catch each other doing these behaviors right. And you can create this intranet site. Please don't have everybody send emails to everybody. You'll crash the system in 3 hours. But have an internet site that's just dedicated to living out our mission. And the value of the month is this. And you have people catching each other doing these behaviors right. And the next month, a different value and different behaviors, obviously, that align with that value. And I did that with this credit union that they told me would never be successful. And about 3 months later, I went back. When I went there the first time and did their leadership training, it looked like those leaders wanted me to fall over dead. And they're like, can we leave now? Yeah, somebody needs to tell his wife, but yeah, this stuff's stupid. 3 months later, everybody's smiling, everybody's engaged, everybody's excited to share these stories because it changed everything from this audit mentality to a let's catch you doing things right mentality. But it wasn't just catch you doing things right. It was things that were aligned with values and our mission. That's a real quick one. Gang, I want to tell you thank you so much for being a part of this. I know this was time out of your day. I hope it was well spent. If you would scan this QR code, you would thrill me if you give feedback on this session. I love to do what I do, and I hope we did it well. Please let us know what we did well and what we can do better. It's only 4 questions, and it'll literally take you 30 seconds. I'd appreciate it. And you didn't pay anything for today. That's the way you can pay me. It's just by providing feedback. But we'd love to give you this offer. We'd love to upskill your managers. We'd love to upskill your managers to learn how to coach into behaviors and coach into performance. And we have an awesome class called Coaching for Performance. It's 3 sessions, and we're discounting it for you. So there's a discount code. So if you go onto our website, ServiStarConsulting.com, you see it at the bottom of the page, and you can use this discount code, and you can send your managers for a discount, and they will rave about this training. So many managers have never been trained on how to coach their staff, and they feel lost and afraid to do it. We would never do that with a teller. We'd never say, here's $3,000 of cash, good luck. But we do that with managers every day. You're promoted to manager, good luck. Don't get us sued. And so this allows you to skill them up at a discounted price. Gang, thank you so much for being here. I hope I get to intersect with you again in the near future. I hope if it's not just on one of these webinars as a client or someone who just wants to dig deeper with me and wants to set up some time to talk about it and for your credit union. So thanks, everybody. Have a great evening. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks for being here.